Chairman. Let me start by saying that I appreciate what the men and women who work for you do every day. They wake up every morning and try to figure out how to keep our country safe. And I think every member of this panel appreciates that and commends them. I do think our policies are making it hard for them. And that's what this is really about today is what can we change policy-wise to reduce rather than enhance the threats to our homeland. As I said earlier, I think it's extraordinary that over these 20 years we haven't had a major mass casualty foreign terrorist event. We certainly had our share of attacks, but not the kind we saw on 9/11, and that's a tribute to them. But our policies worry me. And I'd like to dig a little deeper on a couple of them quickly. I appreciate what you said on social media, Director Wray, and certainly in the cybersecurity. We look forward to working with you, Mr. Secretary, as you know, on that legislation to ensure we have incident reporting and we get our handle on the increasing cyber threat and the ransomware. But on these two issues we've already talked about today, one is the Afghan evacuees and the potential problems we may have if we don't have a system in place, a policy in place that makes the people, again, who work for you and others able to do their job. I'm concerned about it. And second is with regard to immigration. Getting back to what has been said about those individuals who were evacuated in this hasty and chaotic process, we left people behind. We all know that. We left American citizens behind, but mostly we left behind people who had helped us. But we also had people get on these flights to leave who, as far as we know at this point, had no connection to us in the sense of helping us or helping our allies. And Secretary Mayorkas, your information is probably different than mine based on what you have said today. We have pushed and pushed, as you know, and as I said, I'm very frustrated we can't get a classified briefing maybe to dig in the bottom of this, but we don't really need, in my view, a classified briefing. We just need to know who these folks are. And by the way, it may surprise some of our constituents to find out that when these folks come over, and again, about 60,000 are here, about 120,000 total, 60,000 are still overseas, they're permitted to walk. In other words, when they land at Dulles or land in Philadelphia, they're allowed to leave and go into the community. Is that accurate, Ms. Secretary? Just a yes or no, please.
No, that is not entirely accurate, Senator. There are conditions of parole for those who are paroled into the United States that are mandatory. So, for example,
but if when they land, if they choose not to go to the military base and to walk, they're able to do that.
They must receive, for example, certain immunizations in order to enter the interior of the United States.
Well, I mean, okay, so they have to get.
There are mandatory, but
they have to get a shot. That's fine, but they're permitted to come into our country, and you know, my staff has been out there to see the arrivals. I have a friend who went to meet his interpreter, who he served in Afghanistan, and you know, they said you can take him with you, but if you do, he could lose his benefits. I understand that, but my point is, we don't have a system in place to keep people who want to walk. Now, the other question is, who are these people? And as I said, 75% of them are not green card holders, they're not citizens, they're not SIV holders, they're not even applicants for SIV. You indicated otherwise, so we just need to get to the bottom of it, because you want to know, I assume, just as we want to know, you know, how we can ensure who these people are. And this notion that they've been vetted as we would normally vet, I mean, how can we vet people? Are you going to call the Taliban government and say, you know, is this information about this criminal record accurate? Of course we can't. Normally we would be able to contact the government. Of course we didn't have an embassy because we had evacuated it. So we didn't go through the normal screening. To Director Abbott said your answer earlier, we didn't go through the normal screening process that you would for someone applying for a visa. You couldn't because we didn't have the visa officials in the foreign office there to do it. So I'm just going to leave that out there because I mean, I have lots of more questions on it, and I could push on what we've heard. But let me just say, yesterday when the State Department was pushed on this and we were asked how many of those parolees applied for SIV or were family members of former employees, the State Department said, quote, none of us really know, end quote. If that's the answer, fine. But if the answer is, as you said today, Mr. Secretary, you know, they're all accounted for and we know who they are, we'd certainly like to know that. With regard